Hey guys, John from Paradigm here. Happy Friday. Wouldn't it be cool if you passed a user story over into testing or QA or whatever you call your testing status, and it was just automatically tested, UI tested for you, and it came back with a response? You didn't have to do anything. As a developer, you just finished the code, you deployed to a cloud environment somewhere and passed the story over, went for a coffee, grabbed some lunch with a friend, and came back and it told you what the result was. That would be pretty awesome. That's what I want to show. And this is what we showed at our Denver meetup. If you missed it, sorry you weren't there. We missed you. But this is the pipeline that we built to showcase what you could do with some AI to test your user stories for you. So what could this replace really quickly? Obviously, what I just mentioned, anytime you're doing some UI testing, this is what this can replace or help you with. These would be functional QA testers, if you have those, if you're doing self-testing. So we're a small shop. Paradigm's a small boutique developer firm. We don't have our own QA folks. We test our code ourselves. But the testing pyramid has a lot of different levels, right? We do our unit testing, and this tool, this pipeline helps us accomplish the top end of that pyramid to do some UI testing and could, in theory, help you replace some regression tests as well, some large end-to-end tests, that take you weeks to run, could just be ran overnight with AI. The possibilities are immense. The value is immense. The overhead is low. Everybody loves that. So let's get into this. This is what I have. So this is what I've set up for the pipeline. We are grabbing the user Mendix stories. I'll show you all of this in detail in a second, but at a high level, we're grabbing the user stories from Mendix. We're using n8n. If you've never used n8n before, it's a workflow automation tool like Zapier or Make, if you've heard of those. Its purpose is really just to orchestrate and string together API calls, pass data, and statuses between different nodes. And n8n is extremely popular right now. It's open source, depending on who you ask, and you can run it locally if you want to, and it's pretty cheap. You could have easily replaced this middle piece with, I could have made a Mendix app for it, but I don't need a full stack solution here. I only need something to automate this workflow, and I'm a fan of using the right tools for the right job. So that then relays the user story, transforms it a little bit into Docket, where Docket's doing the actual UI testing with an AI agent. It's spinning up a virtual machine, logging in, it's testing your user story for you, and then the test results are then relayed back into the user story. So how does this look like in practice, or at least what is the end result? I have a user story here, which I think is just a prototypical user story. Two things to note. Everything is garbage in, garbage out. If my user stories are 1 sentence, 2 sentences long, my chances of success are probably going to be pretty low. The more explicit you are with your user stories, the more defined your acceptance criteria, or if you add in a lot of given when thens, or however you structure your user story, the more explicit and detailed it is, the better chance of success that you will have. But mine, I think, is just middle of the road. It's a pretty simple feature request. Display basketball stats in a grid. I define what I want to show in the grid. Another thing that I have noted here, you'll see that I do define the testing user. This can be expanded upon and automated even more, but for the sakes of this pipeline, just to show it working, I explicitly call out what user to make. I could expand upon this and make some type of matrix. Normally, user stories, you would have usually you'd specify in the beginning as user X, Y, or Z, where you are calling out specific user roles. Those would relate to a specific testing account. So I did not do that. Instead, just directly called out what testing users is, so the AI knows what user to use for testing. Now, let's move this over. So I'm going to move this story over into testing We're going to give it a second. This normally takes at least a couple minutes. For larger stories, it takes a lot longer. And let's refresh and see if it is done. And it is. Okay, so look, we see the user story name has changed. It now has a failed tag in the title. And in the description, we have a test run result that said it failed. And we see a video. And if I open this video, I get a short video of the AI actually testing the user story. It has its browser, it's logging in with the details that I provided, it's going to the basketball stat grid, and it's doing the testing. So if you want to see the proof of what it did, you could look at this video. Alternatively, you could go into Docket themselves and see a lot more details. I'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, how was this accomplished? Starts here in n8n, and within n8n, I have two workflows with this within this QA pipeline. The first one is to create the test and run the test. We start with a trigger. I have this on a schedule, so it's checking every couple minutes. It's hitting the Mendix Epics API. It's grabbing a list of stories for this project. It's doing some code to filter out only user stories that I care about, mainly only user stories that are now in the testing status. And then I write that to a Google Sheet. So there is a small need for some persistable data. You can plug in any database that you want here. I chose Google Sheets just because it was easy to do. This is what my Google Sheet looks like. Just a couple of attributes, the story. The main purpose of this is for my workflow to recognize stories that I've already ran, stories I've already checked or have yet to check or are waiting for me to relay a status. And then we hit the Docket APIs here, where first one, we're transforming the user story into test steps. Docket has an API for that. Uses API to basically just transform a user story into specific test steps. Then we create and then we run a test. We trigger the test. The test, I said, can take a couple minutes, so I would not expect a response back of a test or fail. It's not that quick. So instead, we just update our database that says, okay, great, we submitted this, and now our other flow is where we relay the status. So this has another scheduled trigger where we're checking recurrently for stories of which that we have yet to pass a status back. We're getting the status, we're getting the run, we're pinging Docket, say, hey, give me the status of story XYZ. If it's still running, I'm going to ignore it, but if it's given it a pass or a fail, then we're going to actually do some stuff with it. And if we got a result back, then we patch it back to the Mendix Epics API, and then we update the row. So you can pass in. So Docket provides a lot of details. And if we run this, I don't know if we'll be able to see this, but yeah, we see that Docket provides a lot of details. It gives you all the details you could imagine for the test result, all the steps that it took. I just write back the test run status, either a success or failure, and I write back the video. I could put in more, as much detail as you want to give. I kept it brief and just put in the status and the video URL. But that's how it works. The last piece of this, okay, what does Docket look like? This is the actual cool part. This is Docket. If you've never heard of Docket before, docketqa.com. It's a testing service where it utilizes AI agents to run UI tests for you. They have, starting from the top, going down. I don't have to go into every part, but we have our set of test runs. This is the test run that we just ran. This is that basketball stat grid story. we look at, these are the instructions that were written through the API call from my workflow. These are the exact actions, and I don't know if you can see this, but these are exact actions that it took. And you can see that it's pretty verbose, which is really nice. It's describing everything that it's thinking and that it's doing. Anytime it takes an action, it's submitting a screenshot, and it has this helpful little indicator of what and where it's clicking or taking an action on the page. And then we have a final assertion of which it failed. It failed because it was missing a column. The user story called out for a key column, and that was not implemented in the grid. So that's where it failed. What is test? You can make these manually in Docket. You don't have to have a workflow like this. You can make tests. You can set up test suites within Docket. I have some here, of which I can make a new test suite if I wanted to. New suite, you can select a login module. So login module is basically just like a predefined test steps, like a component that you could call. So you could say, okay, login as XYZ. So you don't have to incorporate it as part of every test. So you could just call it as a part of your test setup. So it's always going to log in with a certain user, testing user, for example. I'm not going to select one, but I could hit create test suite. And I'll look at that test suite, and then I can start writing tests. I can make a new test here, and it's pretty simple. You name your test, you give it a starting URL for your app, you can assign it to a test suite, and then you provide it some instructions. And then it will perform it. And so you could say, test my app, login for XYZ. It'll then translate that into testing actions, and then you can preview that. Here in this window, it'll show you a live view of the AI agent walking through and testing your new test case. So then you can start to string these tests together and build out your own test suite, of which you can run through their APIs. And they have a CI/CD integration. They have an API key here. They're connected to GitHub. They do have those APIs, which I showed you, which I don't know are publicly available yet. I'm sure will be at a certain point in time, which we use for our workflows. It's really cool. Docket is constantly updating, adding new things. Seems like just about every day I log in, there's a new feature. They just added this concept of agent rules. I haven't played around with it. I'm not an expert on it yet. I won't speak to it because I'm sure I'll get made fun of if I say the wrong thing, and I'm sure the Docket guys are watching. But it seems really sweet. I encourage you to check them out. They're a startup. They've been on our podcast. Check out the Paradigm Shift podcast where we interviewed them. It was super interesting. That's all I got to show. So what do you think? Is this the future? Can you see yourself using this stuff? I will share, if you're interested, my n8n workflows, so you could copy this and build it yourself. And if I don't see you next week, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later.